Alright guys, today's video is going to be about the new JP character, which is SP Yamamoto. But before that, we do have a new gift code on Global. So the gift code this time around is going to be HAIKYU gift Ma. Okay, so if we redeem that, we are going to get 2 SP ticket. That's actually really nice. On to the main topic, new SP Yamamoto. So skill 1, he is able to increase his receive and power passively by 10%. This goes up higher as you level up. Then whenever you have a play which is not bad on your side, so it doesn't have to be him, it's just your side, he's going to get 1 stack of buff called Guts. Each one of them is going to increase his basic stats up to maximum 10 stacks. Furthermore, when you make a perfect play, his awareness is also going to increase by 10% up to a maximum of 50. This is actually really easy to stack up because it's just a perfect play, especially if you actually play him alongside with the second version of Kenma, which is pretty much like the way you are going to play him. This will just stack up really fast because Kenma guarantees that perfect receive, which then his memory guarantees a perfect set, and then when your set is perfect, your spike is going to be perfect. So immediately, straight away, for the first spike, you already have like 30% awareness. So this is definitely very easy to stack up. Then skill 2, you will be performing receive only 140, so it's a bit low on the power side. However, for each stack of guts, you're going to further increase that. So let's say guts can be stacked maximum 10 times. If you actually stack this 10 times, this is going to be increased by 300. All of a sudden, you have a receive of power of 440, which is obviously higher than the ultimate. So this can definitely be very strong, but depending on how many stack of guts you're going to have. But the most broken mechanic is more that when the number of guts is 5 or more, this is actually guaranteed to be perfect, which basically means you can't lose a point from that receive. Okay, definitely very strong. Obviously, this is only going to be when you actually use the skill itself, so it's 6 net crossing, so you can't just have him try to spam all of the receive and have perfect every single time. It doesn't work that way. It has to be the skill itself. Well, at least that's the way I interpret it, otherwise it would be completely broken. Okay, then skill 3, when he casts inherent power inside yeah, that's ultimate attack. When he uses his ultimate attack, his power attack is going to increase by each stack of guts. This number would increase as you level it up. And then, depending on the number of guts you have, if it's 1 or higher, you are gonna reduce the enemy block and receive. Once again, this number goes higher. 3 or higher, this is guaranteed to be a crit, a spike and receive. To be honest, spike doesn't matter so much because your awareness should already be pretty high just from this. And also, if you have to play with Kenma V2, I remember Kenma V2 buff up awareness as well. Okay, so a spike should be guaranteed to be crit anyway, and then receive guaranteed to be crit. Obviously that is nice, but if you are able to get your stacks to be 5 or more, it will be perfect anyway. Then in which case, whether or not you crit or not doesn't really matter. It's the same outcome, right? You're not going to lose that point regardless whether or not you're crit. So this one to me is, it's doesn't really impact, it doesn't move the needle much in real life. Then this one, 5 or higher, you're going to increase your strength. Okay, and once again, this number goes higher. Then skill 4, ultimate attack, performance power, attack with that power. Then you're also going to consume of your stacks. Attack and defense technique will be increased now, lasting for 1 whole rally. And then if you had at least 2 perfect play this time around, power spike is going to increase further. So basically the raw power of this is only 250 at the lowest level. That's definitely quite low in comparison to other spikers. However, if you're actually able to trigger this, it's 300, which is make it a bit more comparable. Now, this, once again, should be fairly easy to trigger if you actually play him alongside with Kenma V2, because Kenma V2 can pretty much like guarantee perfect, and then his memory, when you have a perfect receive, then it goes into perfect set, and when you have a perfect set, it also forces your spike to be perfect. So this should be somewhat straightforward for you to trigger, once again, if you play Kenma V2. Okay, now resonance. So skill resonance 2, when you use a power quick spike, that is perfect, which, like I said, right, with Kenma V2, you guarantee the perfect receive, which then memory guarantees a perfect set, which then by default means a perfect spike. So this is very easy to trigger. Then Yamamoto's next spike is going to increase by 100% of his power attack. Okay, so once again, this goes up even higher. So I just said, base 250 plus 50 here. If you're able to have 2 perfect, which is very easy, that becomes 300. With skill resonance 2, that becomes 400. And then the most important part of this skill resonance is actually the second half, which is that when your son makes a perfect play, he gains one stack of guts. Now remember the sequence I just talked about. Kenma V2 guarantees a perfect receive, perfect receive, then his memory then guarantees a perfect set, and then that forces spike to be a perfect spike as well. That in total is already three perfect play. And then if you actually take a look at his skill one, whenever you do a play which is not bad, obviously it's going to be the case here because they're all perfect, then you're also going to get a stack each. So all of a sudden, skill resonance 2 guarantees that you pretty much will always have a 6 stack of guts on him, and that's very crucial because 6 stack of guts can make sure when Yamamoto ever receive, it will be perfect, and whenever you spike, it's also gonna benefit from every single effect here as well. Okay, so this to me is very very important because it just kind of ensures your Yamamoto will be able to reach that 6 stacks as soon as the first spike from your side has happened. Okay, very very nice. Skill resonance 4. When you make a perfect play, receive and also spike power will increase by 25% of the stats up to maximum 100. This is almost like a slightly weaker version of skill resonance 2 because skill resonance 2 is able to do it by 100 but just for spike. This granted is for both receive and also spike. It's kind of like take time for you to stack it up. Even when you talk about that sequence of three perfects in a row, you're only going to get to 75% each. So to me, also consider how much extra dupes you have to go to get to skill resonance 4. Like to get to skill resonance 2, you'll need 2 dupes. To get to skill resonance 4, you need an additional 4 dupes outside of skill resonance 2. So to me, this is just a bit expensive when you kind of just achieve the same thing as skill resonance 2, but obviously value for money wise, it's a lot more expensive than skill resonance 2. And then the last part, when you cast his ultimate, you get 3 stack of guts. But like I said, with this, you're already able to make sure you guarantee at least 6 stacks. And then to build it up even higher, it doesn't even take that long. So this to me, once again, is not like it's nice, but it's just very expensive considering it's a skill resonance 4 effect. Okay, now let's take a look at his bonds. First one is going to be with Kenma V2. You will be increasing your own receive stat by 2000. That's probably roughly, I don't know, 20% of your in-match stats, which is decent. And then whenever you gain guards, Kenma is also going to gain guards, which would then improve Kenma's basic stats by maximum 20% as well. Okay. Then the next one with SP Tenica, you'll be increasing your power attack handles or receive by 850. Assuming you build them with power attacking potentials, 850 is probably only going to be like a mere 5% of their in-match spiking stats and probably 10% of their in-match receiving stats. So once again, okay, but nothing crazy. And then when the opponent has a debuff, which is pretty much guaranteed when you have SP Technical, to be honest, you'll be increasing their attack and defense technique. Maximum 10%. Once again, not a huge number, but attack and defense technique are pretty rare to buff up normally, so that's at least good from that perspective. The memory wise is pretty mid, to be honest. So maximum, you're able to increase your power attack by 24%, which is pretty much the case for all of the memories, and then strength by 10% up to 4 stacks, so maximum 40%. Now this does require you to do perfect power spike, but that's not that difficult considering you'll be playing him normally with Kenma V2. But even at the highest level, once you fully stack it, it's only going to be 40% increase to strength. It's not a bad multiplier, but if you look in comparison, the last SP memory we got, this is able to increase a freaking 120% by their power attack. This just completely outshines whatever Yamamoto's one is able to provide. So there's no real reason for you to go after Yamamoto's one when you can do something like Tanaka's one instead, which is a lot more impactful. Okay, so that's kind of the memory side. So overall, what do I think of the character? His skills doesn't look that impressive on first look, but I feel like it's quite easy to sleep on him, even though he's actually very, very decent if you do the math behind him. The reason why he may looks a bit underwhelming when you first look at it is because none of his buff is actually that crazy. Like if you take a look at some of the other characters, you see some insane numbers like 100+% buff in just one stats. However, what makes Yamamoto slightly different is that none of his numbers are that high, but he has really, really wide coverage, and in fact, he actually covers every single aspect in the damage formula. Because if you take a look at what he's capable of doing, He can self buff his own awareness. He can self buff his own strength. He can self buff his own power attack stat. Then he can also self buff his attack and defense technique. And then he can also self buff his skill multiplier. So he literally covers every single number in the damage formula. And whilst, yes, not any one of them is amazing, none of them is like that crazy, but when you actually multiply them all together, obviously multiplication is a lot larger than addition. You may actually end up with a number which seems a lot higher than you initially expect. Okay, so I do feel like his even though his kit looks pretty mid, if you do all of the maths together, I have a feeling he's probably at same standard as some of the other characters who may have 100 plus buff inside their own kit, but that's only in single stats, whereas Yamamoto just kind of like dilute that across multiple different multipliers instead. So that's kind of from his offensive point of view. His defensive point of view, obviously you have this insane mechanics which require Gus to be 5 or more. I do feel like this one you kind of need skill resistance too to make sure you always have this ready. But if you do have it ready, it's going to be very annoying because it's just going to be a perfect receive. It's not going to be as annoying as what Kemba V2 is able to offer, purely because Kemba V2 can guarantee a perfect receive Kemba V2 is able to convert a bad receive into a perfect receive whenever he is on the field. Whereas for Yamamoto, there's going to be two things. One is that it's just guaranteed to be perfect, but there's a chance, for example, your receive was going to be perfect anyway, in which case this doesn't actually improve. It's not like Kemba, which only convert a bad to a perfect. Okay, so there's slightly different condition here, which can mean potentially if your receiver is already going to be perfect anyway, then this basically makes no difference at all. And then the other thing is that this actually requires himself to receive, which obviously have a 6 net crossing. So let's say you can't just trigger this whenever you want, and also because he actually needs to receive, with the way your team rotates as you win and lose points, you probably would only actually able to trigger this half of the time in the match. Okay, only when he's actually at the back and also when he has the skill available. So that's kind of why it's not going to be as annoying as Kemba V2, but a lot of time you'll be playing them together, and that is going to be definitely annoying to both face and also to some extent play yourself. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but sometimes I am just too impatient to even sit out and play a 4-minute peak match myself manually in PvP nowadays. If I play Kemba V2 plus Yamamoto, all of the matches is gonna be, I don't know, probably 8 minutes long. Sure, it's a strong team, but from enjoyable point of view, I probably won't be enjoying the matches themselves anymore, because my 5 attempts in PvP now is going to take me like almost a whole hour, which is just going to be crazy. So yeah, take that however you will. I feel like he's a strong character. May not be the most enjoyable to play, and that's also goes alongside with Kemba V2. Okay, I think if you put them in your defense team, you can annoy the hell out of your opponents, and maybe they won't even bother to attack you because they don't want to waste an hour of their life. But probably from offensive point of view, if you want your experience to be a bit more enjoyable, this can be a bit of a double-edged sword. Okay, so that's going to be my thoughts on the new SP Yamamoto. Let me know what you guys think. Is this someone you would like to summon for?